Now let's move on to perspective 2, which revolves around the premise of extrajudicial killings. The war on drugs launched by former President Rodrigo Duterte in 2016 became one of the Philippines' most controversial policies, sparking deaths and raised serious concerns about human rights, justice, and accountability. While Duterte defended the war as a necessary fight for the drug trade, it was marked by extrajudicial killings and widespread abuses, particularly targeting poor and marginalized communities. Despite government claims of success, the brutal tactics and disregard for human rights sparked widespread criticism. Now, we'll delve into three main points in this perspective, which involves human rights violations, abuse of power, and targeting of the poor and marginalized. Firstly, delving into the human rights violations. The campaign was heavily criticized for extrajudicial killings, with thousands of suspended drug offenders killed without due process. This approach undermined the rule of law and sparked international condemnation. And also, as per what Duterte said in an interview, which verbatim, he said, when I said I do not care about what the human rights guys say, I have a duty to preserve a generation. If it involves human rights, I don't give a... And with this being said, these exact words of President Duterte being said, it shows how his regard for possible human rights violation about the shoot-to-kill order was low, as he gave premise and importance into it. Also known and giving power to the military. Years after the end of his term, hearings and discussions continued to address the widespread human rights violations that occurred under his administration, including the killings of innocent civilians. Now, in a Senate hearing, Duterte claimed full legal responsibility for the drug war, saying that he alone should be held accountable, not the police that he gave orders to. However, in contrast to this, when a senator asked him as to the killing of a 17-year-old innocent student named Kian de los Santos, Duterte just said that this was the personal responsibility of officers to pull the trigger, because essentially he didn't do said action, which contradicts then his premise that he took full accountability for all the lives taken by the drug war. Now, the true civilian death toll from the Duterte's drug war is far higher than official reports. While the government acknowledges over 6,000 deaths during the police operations, many involved officers were cleared through international investigations. However, ACLED data reveals that at least 7,742, which is more than 1,000 more, civilians have been killed since 2016. 25% more than official figures, suggesting a significant underreporting of the human cost. Now, lastly, the human rights violations under Duterte's leadership were so severe that the International Criminal Court, or ICC, launched a formal investigation and took direct action. So, as reported in an official article on March 12, 2025, Rodrigo Roa Duterte was taken into ICC custody following his arrest by Philippine authorities, in accordance with an arrest warrant issued by pre-trial chamber, one on charges of murder as a crime against humanity. Now, this highlights the irony of the situation. Despite claims that his arrest was politically motivated or unjust, Duterte, who openly dismissed human rights during his presidency, is now relying on the very principles he once ignored to defend himself. Now, moving on to perspective 2. Now, the war on drugs under Duterte became a campaign of power abuse, where extrajudicial killings were rampant and the poor became primary targets, encouraging police to shoot and kill suspects. Duterte's approach disregarded legal protections and human rights, leading to thousands of deaths. What was meant to fight drugs became a tool for consolidating power through fear, violence, leaving a trail of suffering. Now, a 2017 report by Human Rights Watch revealed systematic abuse of power by Philippine police during the President Rodrigo Duterte's war on drugs. The investigation detailed 24 incidents between June 2016 and January 2017, resulting in 32 deaths. In many cases, families of the victims reported that police officers forcibly entered homes, executed suspects, and then planted evidence to justify the killings. These findings challenged government's narrative that suspects were killed in self-defense during lawful operations. Instead, the report suggests a pattern of extrajudicial killings, with law enforcement acting with impunity. The HRW report underscores the need for accountability and a thorough investigation into these abuses to uphold human rights and the rule of law in the Philippines. Now, going on to the last point, targeting the poor and marginalized. Most of those affected by the drug war were from poor communities. While high-profile drug lords and corrupt officials were rarely prosecuted, this imbalance raised concerns about injustice and inequality in enforcement. Now, Amnesty International 2017 described the campaign as a war on the poor, noting that police often planted evidence and targeted low-income areas. Now, they stated that the anti-drug campaign effectively became a war on the poor, as one stated. They were targeting those of the poor neighborhoods. They were individuals that were labeled as drug users or pushers without proper investigation or due process. The report further documented police practices such as planted evidence and providing monetary incentives for killing suspects. Now, despite being publicly named, wealthy individuals such as alleged drug lord Peter Lim were rarely prosecuted. This was from Human Rights Watch as well. Now, lastly, the United Nations reported the impunity among powerful actors was widespread, revealing systematic inequality in drug policy enforcement. In stark contrast, wealthy individuals, high-profile drug lords, and corrupt officials frequently evaded persecution or received preferential treatment. For instance, despite being named by Duterte himself, alleged drug trafficker Peter Lim remained free for years, raising concerns about selective justice from the Human Rights Watch. The United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights also emphasized the lack of accountability among powerful figures, highlighting a systematic imbalance in law enforcement that undermines the principles of equality before the law. Now, looking back, what do we know and what do we get from this, right? Now, despite the first perspective where it was essentially effective to some extent, this matters of extrajudicial killing where there was a violation of human rights, abuse of power, and the targeting of the poor and marginalized shows how the system or how this certain movement was unjust, how it wasn't built for the masses, how its main goal was essentially covered up by all the disadvantages that it gave the people. So that is all for perspective 2.